Welcome to the 1997 Young Reader's Choice Award Book Preview. It's the Hartford Hooligans versus the Malloy Musketeers when a family of girls moves next to four brothers. The boys' fantasy is to make these girls so miserable that they'll move away and the boys' best friends can return. But these girls, the boys call them a whomper, a weirdo, and a crazy, are an equal match for any and all practical jokes. This book is called The Boys Start the War, and it is the winner of the junior division of the Young Reader's Choice Award.
The Young Reader's Choice Award is the oldest children's choice award in the United States, and it is the only regional award chosen by children of two countries. Each year, students in grades 4 through 8 and 9 through 12 in Alaska, British Columbia, and Alberta, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana read and vote for their favorite book.
This year's winning author is Phyllis Reynolds Naylor, who listened to her parents read aloud nearly all her life. She's been writing since she was 16 years old and writes books for children and adults. Writing is her favorite activity, and she isn't happy unless she spends time every day writing. Naylor says she's having lots of fun writing about boys and girls and their battles.
Who will win in 1997?
You choose the winner.
All 4th through 8th graders who have read or listened to at least 2 of the nominated titles can vote in March. To help you decide which of the 12 books you want to read, here's a brief description of each.
Eve Bunting was raised in Northern Ireland and learned to tell stories after the lights were out at the boarding school she attended. Now she lives in California and has written over 200 titles for readers of all ages. Kids of all sizes will love reading, but not smelling. Nasty, stinky sneakers. Colin has spent weeks perfecting a sneaker order for the stinkiest sneakers in the world contest. If he wins, he'll get 3 brand new pairs of slam dunker sneakers. One for himself, one for his little sister, Amy, and one for his best pal, Webster. But now, after weeks of working towards stinky perfection, not washing his feet, wearing no socks, jogging to get his feet juicy, and even sleeping with his sneakers on, the nasty, stinky sneakers are missing.
Betsy Byers has been a popular author for middle grade readers for over 30 years. Her personal interests include flying her own plane, volunteering at public libraries, and tutoring children with learning difficulties. Some say her new character, girl detective Herculia Jones, is as smart as Nancy Drew. The Dark Stairs, a Herculia Jones mystery. Solving crimes comes naturally to Herculia Jones. After all, her father is a detective and her mother runs a private eye business. So how can Herculia resist the strange case of Dead Oaks, a spooky abandoned house? Local legend says that it is the place of murder, insanity, and an unsolved disappearance. It won't be easy to find the answer, but Herculia and her friend Meat may crack the case and uncover the mystery of the Dark Stairs.
Halloween is author Bruce Coville's favorite holiday. His school colors were black and orange, and he was employed for a while as a gravedigger. He loves to write for kids and finds great ideas all around. Coville says, "The brain is a constant idea machine. The trick is to save them." Now that his writing career is all he hoped it would be, Coville is enjoying the ride. He says, "I will continue to do this because it's better than wearing a tie. I think it's important to do something for children." Undoubtedly, that's why he wrote the play and then the book, The Dragon Slayers. A wicked dragon is threatening the kingdom of King Mildred, and he offers his daughter's hand to the dragon slayer. But his daughter is the most stubborn and courageous princess who ever strapped on a sword, and she is determined to slay the dragon. But so is Brian, a young page who yearns to be a knight. Who will be the dragon slayer?
Growing up in Ohio and later moving to England, Sharon Creech has worked as an editorial assistant and an indexer. She says that Walk Two Moons evolved from a simple story about the chaotic Finney family and is based on much of her own life. While she was writing it, Creech was missing her own children who had returned to the United States to attend college. She also recalled a family trip she took as a child, driving from Ohio to Idaho. Creech combined all these ideas to write the Newbery Award-winning book, Walk Two Moons. 13-year-old Sal Hiddle travels from Ohio to Idaho with her eccentric grandparents. Along the way, she tells them the story of Phoebe Winterbottom, her friend who received mysterious messages, met a potential lunatic, and like Sal, has a mother who left home. Now a professional storyteller, Cynthia DeFelice was once a school librarian. The books she liked best as a kid were the stories that made her feel as if she was writing a story and part of what was happening. DeFelice says that she wants her own books to entertain, keep the readers turning the pages, and also leave readers with characters they will remember and ideas they will come back to. She traveled to the Everglades to research endangered resources and displaced Native Americans in order to write Lost Man's River. In 1906, within days of each other, two strangers show up at the Macaulay homes on Lost Man's River. Tyler's father brought his family to the Everglades to escape a possible murder charge, and they have been living there for over 5 years. A stranger appears and wants to hire Tyler to help him collect samples and drawings of the plants and animals. This expedition sets in motion a series of events that make Tyler question his own values, wonder about treachery, and worry about the future of the place he has grown to love. And it forces the Macaulays to confront their greatest fears.
When he was a kid, Jack Gantos copied his older sister all the time. When she got a diary, he demanded one, and then he copied everything his sister wrote until finally he started writing about what was most important to him, food. He kept all his childhood diaries that told about the real things that happened to him and turned them into the book, Heads or Tails, Stories from the 6th Grade. Jack's life is a crazy roller coaster ride. He has moved 5 times in the last 6 years, and now his teacher won't give him a break about his lousy handwriting. At home, he has a pesky little brother who has a knack for getting hurt, an older sister who laughs at his attempts to contact UFOs, all sorts of weird neighbors, and last but not least, ferocious alligators in the canal behind his house. Jack writes about his good days and his bad days in this diary, and his life goes both ways, heads or tails. Dick Kingsmith lives in England and has been writing books for children for the past 15 years. Because he used to be a farmer, Kingsmith has considerable experience to draw upon to write animal stories. He says he can't write for adults because he'd get the giggles. His book, Babe the Gallant Pig, was made into the movie Babe. If you like amazing animals like Babe, you'll love 3 Terrible Twins. Mrs. Gray, a mouse widow, trains her triplets, also known as the 3 Terrible Twins, to terrorize the farmhouse cats. She wants to get revenge on the cat who killed and ate Mr. Gray. She teaches them martial arts and battle skills, and soon they are ready to attack. The 3 mice brothers befriend a cellar mouse and create an unbeatable team that rids the house of cats.
Born in West Virginia, Walter Dean Myers was informally adopted by friends of his family who brought him to Harlem. He found his new home and family delightful. Proud of his Harlem heritage, Myers likes to write about his community in a realistic fashion. That's exactly what he does in Darnell Rock Reporting. 13-year-old Darnell Rock is not the kind of kid who would normally work on the school newspaper. Sounds way too much like homework. But Darnell is being given one last chance by the principal to get his act together and contribute to South Oakdale Middle School. Although at first Darnell would much rather be hanging out doing nothing with his friends, he soon becomes interested after he discovers that people pay attention to what he writes. Before he knows it, Darnell finds himself changing from a kid who can't seem to do anything right to a person who can make a difference.
Although Teresa Nelson now lives in New York, she was born into a library-loving family in Texas and spent time on the road with a theatrical touring company. Nelson feels her imagination allows her to write about the harsh realities that some contemporary teenagers might face. She lived for a time in Los Angeles and used that setting, a place where people go looking for dreams, for her book, Earthshine. 12-year-old Slim lives in the Hollywood Hills with her bright young actor father, Mac, and his friend Larry. Some think there's magic in the valley and in the mountains, making all things possible, even miracles. At least 11-year-old Isaiah thinks so. Slim meets Isaiah at an AIDS support group. Like her, he has a parent who has the dreadful disease. Making the most of life with her funny and irreplaceable dad and learning to cope with this illness provide the story for this book called Earthshine.
Catherine Patterson has moved to a number of places and has been a teacher, missionary, and a writer. She lives in Virginia and has 4 children, 2 adopted, 2 homemade. And even though she swims, plays tennis, and sails, she is best at reading and says, "I enjoy reading as much as anyone I know." Patterson describes the writing process as often simply playing around with ideas. She occasionally goes on trips to visit the setting of her books. She didn't have to go far to investigate the setting of Flip Flop Girl. 4th grader Vinny is struggling with lots of problems. Her father has died, her younger brother can no longer speak, and now she has moved to a new town and must attend a brand new school. The one bright spot in Vinnie's life is her kind teacher, Mr. Clayton. But then she meets Lupe, a tall, lanky girl who plays along and always wears bright orange flip-flops. Vinnie finds a rare friendship and very nearly destroys it.
Chap Reaver, a chiropractor for 34 years, started writing after he moved to Georgia and needed to fill some time. He wrote about serious topics laced with humor and taught creative writing classes. Reaver died just after he finished writing Bill. Jessica Gates lives with her father in the backwoods of Kentucky. Her best friend is her dog, Bill. A local revenue officer, the kind-hearted Officer Dudley, arrests Jess's dad for making illegal alcohol. While visiting her dad in jail, Jess confides a secret involving hidden treasure, but loses faith in him when he tells a fellow prisoner and jeopardizes her life. After Bill nearly dies saving her, Jess must look closely at her loyalties and her future.
Graham Salisbury grew up on the islands of Hawaii and Oahu. He worked as a skipper, a deckhand, a rock musician, and an elementary school teacher. Now he manages a historic building in Portland, Oregon, where he lives with his family. Salisbury says, "The important thing for me to understand as a writer is that though the world has changed, the basic needs of young people haven't." He writes about an exciting time in the historical novel Under the Blood Red Sun. Tommy was born in Hawaii. His grandfather and parents were born in Japan, but know that now they live in a good place. World War II seems far away for Tommy and his friends, even though Pearl Harbor is full of warships. They're too busy playing ball on their 8th grade team, the Rats. But then Pearl Harbor is attacked by the Japanese, and the United States declares war on Japan. Japanese men are rounded up, and Tommy's father and grandfather are arrested. It's a terrifying time to be Japanese in America. But for Tommy, one thing doesn't change, the loyalty of his buddies, the Rats.
Those are the 12 nominated books. At the end of the videotape, your teacher or librarian will show you where the Young Reader's Choice books are shelved in your classroom or library and answer your questions. Be sure to read, and don't forget to vote.
When Lois Lowry created the world for her book, The Giver, she thought about the importance of passing down memories. The photograph of the man on the cover was taken by Lowry in 1979. She says that while interviewing him, she realized that he saw things she did not, and that aspect of someone giving her color went into the writing of the Newbery Award-winning book, The Giver, which was the favorite of the senior division voters for the 1996 Young Reader's Choice Award. This futuristic story is about Jonas, a boy who inhabits a seemingly ideal world, a world without conflict, poverty, unemployment, divorce, injustice, or inequality. Family values are important. Teenage rebellion is unheard of, and even good manners are a way of life. But Jonas has an unusual ability to see beyond the ordinary. The Council of Elders have noticed and appoint Jonas to become the receiver of memory, the most highly honored position in the community. His selection leads him to an unnamed man, the man called only the Giver, and Jonas begins to sense the dark secrets that underlie the fragile perfection of his world. Born in Hawaii and now living in Boston and New Hampshire, Lois Lowry has been freelance writing for over 20 years. Many ideas for her books come from childhood memories and her own life. Luckily for readers, Lowry says she happily spends her days reading and writing.
The Young Reader's Choice Award is the oldest children's choice award in the United States, and it is the only regional award chosen by children of 2 countries. Each year, students in grades 4 through 8 and 9 through 12 in Alaska, British Columbia, and Alberta, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana read and vote for their favorite book.
Who will win in 1997?
It's up to you.
All 9th through 12th graders who have read or listened to at least 2 of the nominated books can vote in March. To help you decide which of the 5 books you want to read, here's a brief description of each.
Caroline B. Cooney was born and raised in Connecticut and still lives there in a small town. She began writing mysteries in college because those were her favorite books to read. Since she was first published, Cooney has written numerous books, including the 1993 Senior Division winner, The Face on the Milk Carton, which was made into a movie for TV. Cooney started out writing a light book about a fluff course, Driver's Ed, with the realization that obtaining a driver's license is every teenager's passport to freedom. But the story took a more serious turn when her editor remarked that Driver's Ed is the only life-and-death course in high school. Remy prays frequently to the God of driver education. She wants to drive every day in her Driver's Ed class, and their teacher is so oblivious, students even switch name tags. He never knows who is driving and who never drives. Driver's Ed was like so many things in school. If the parents only knew. When Remy and others decided to play a prank, the results were deadly.
Karen Cushman is a museum studies director in San Francisco, and she has had a long-standing interest in history. In 1996, she won the Newbery Award for her book, The Midwife's Apprentice. Cushman says, "I grew tired of hearing about kings, princes, generals, and presidents. I wanted to know what life was like for ordinary young people in other times. That inspired the story of Catherine called Bertie. Catherine feels trapped. Her father, she calls him the Beast, is determined to marry her off to a rich man, any rich man, no matter how awful. But by wit, trickery, and luck, Catherine manages to send several would-be husbands packing. Then a shaggy, bearded suitor from the north comes to call, and he is by far the oldest, ugliest, and most revolting suitor of them all. Unfortunately, he is also the richest. Set in England in the 13th century, this story reveals an authentic look at medieval life from the viewpoint of a spirited young woman named Catherine but called Bertie."
Born in Arizona, Nancy Farmer has had various careers, including joining the Peace Corps and going to India, and working as a chemist and entomologist in Zimbabwe, where she met her husband. She grew up surrounded by storytelling and now tells stories professionally. Her rules for being a successful writer are read as much as possible and write as much as possible for several years. Farmer lived in Africa for 17 years and says her experiences there had a major effect on her writing. It had to inspire her great futuristic story, The Ear, the Eye, and the Arm. Tunde and his younger sister and brother are the ideal victims for a kidnapping. After all, they are the children of General Masika, Chief of Security for Zimbabwe in the year 2194. It is because the general keeps his family secluded in a heavily guarded estate that his children are desperate for adventure in the outside world. So they take off for a day and find more adventure and danger than they ever bargained for. Disaster follows disaster as the children escape from one set of villains only to be captured by another. The mutant detectives, Ear, Eye, and Arm possess special talents that might make it possible for them to save the children. But then again, the children just might have to save themselves.
Julie Johnson was born and raised in Ontario, Canada, and has written several adult short stories and 2 plays. She has worked as an occupational therapist and has taught creative writing. About her writing, Johnston says, What I enjoy most about writing fiction is burrowing so deeply into these characters that I am in tune with how they think, how they sound, and how they see the world. Welcome to the world of Sarah in Adam and Eve and Pinch Me. Sarah Moon prides herself on the fact that she can backspace, cancel, and delete people right out of her life whenever she chooses. It's as easy as touching the keyboard of her computer, on which she has recorded her thoughts. 16 is the magic age for Sarah, for then she thinks she can leave foster care behind forever. Abandoned as an infant, Sarah is biding her time, living in the last of a series of foster homes. Sarah struggles to remain unattached to the Huddlestons, talkative Ma, and insightful Hud, and the other foster children, Nick and Josh. Added to her worries is a strange woman who comes to town to search for her lost daughter. Sarah soon learns that it's not easy to run away from the people she has come to love.
Born into an absurdly large family in West Virginia, Walter Dean Myers now lives in New Jersey. A prolific writer, Myers works with 3 editors who collaborate with him on each project. About writing, Myers says, you should write about not just what you know, but what you can fully imagine. Because he wanted to express the change from generation to generation, Myers wrote The Glory Field. This 250-year saga celebrates the African-American experience through the lives of 5 characters who not only endured but prevailed. It begins on a slave ship off the coast of West Africa in 1753 and continues through present-day urban life. What sustains and holds the Lewis family together through slavery, the Civil War, urban migration, segregation, and civil rights is a plot of land, the Glory Field, the place they began their life in America. This is the story of generations of struggle, of joy, and of strength, the story of one family and one field.
Those are the 5 nominated books. At the end of the videotape, your teacher or librarian will show you where the books are shelved in your classroom or library. Be sure to read, and don't forget to vote.